Today, Conor McGregor is set to make his return to mixed martial arts in the next upcoming weeks. He will be making that return at 170 pounds against the bestest blessed Max Bless Holloway. And Conor just did an interview with Ariel Helwani. And he basically saying he's clean. And I ain't talking about he's fresh out the shower. So, I don't know what that means. And, I don't know. But my guy Dustin Poirier kind of having a little bit of troubles right now. And I don't know what world we living in where Conor McGregor's clean and Dustin Poirier kind of having a little bit of troubles. All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt. My apologies that I haven't been making as many videos here lately, but pretty much from April all the way through June is like a stretch of like a million of my family members' birthdays and all these different things. And yeah, it's a lot. And I just celebrated my son's birthday the other day. Shout out to him. So, you know what I'm saying? We back in it. We back with it. But during my downtime, right? I was keeping up with things. Shout out to Manel Kopp. He goes out there and gets a win last week. That was awesome to see over Horiguchi. But man, I stumbled across, because I'm not a big... I used to watch a lot of Ariel Helwani's show when he was on MMA Fighting at SBN.com. I used to watch him a lot on that, kind of like the heyday of Ariel. It was kind of before I would label Ariel as kind of like his own corporate entity. It was kind of like you had the original fun-loving Ariel. Then he went to ESPN, and that was like really corporate Ariel, but he was corporate for ESPN. But he still slightly had an edge. Then we had the 10-7 Helwani era, I should say, when he went back to MMA fighting. And that was kind of like so-so. But then we got this new version, the uncrowned Ariel Helwani, who's completely, totally sold out. Completely corporate, but he's his own corporate entity. Meaning, he's going to spin a lot of stories, but he's going to spin them in his own favor. With that being said, I happened to catch when he had the notorious Conor McGregor on there like a week or two ago. This leading up to Conor's main event return against Max Holloway in the welterweight division. And, I don't really know what to say about a return from Conor McGregor in 2026, right? Because when you look at it from the industry standpoint of mixed martial arts, you want Conor McGregor to go out there and do work, get the win in a spectacular fashion, and move on. That's what you want to see, right? You don't have to be a Conor McGregor fan to understand that one of the reasons that the UFC is having so many problems here with just getting people hyped up about fights is a lack of stars, a lack of people that really capture the imagination of the general public, right? So yeah, they're not gonna make the big huge fights that we want to see based out of skills and number one contenders and titles and title shots and things like that. But also, there's a big issue with this new crop of fighter. There's not a ton of stars in the mix like your Conor McGregors, your Max Holloways, your Jose Aldos, your Chuck Liddells, your like years John Jones, Rampage Jackson, Rashad Evans. You know what I'm saying? Like Junior Dos Santos, Cain Velasquez. All of these people, even if some of them that I named off were stoic, they were still stars. They were still interesting. The early days of Israel Adesanya. You know what I'm saying? And of course, Anderson Silva, GSP. All of these guys, man, early days. You know, Uriah Faber, you know, Dominic Cruz, all of these different guys, some of them wouldn't necessarily be cataloged as superstars, Ronda Rousey, but they were stars. They were stars that were kind of known, or they were definitely known in their region, and it just kind of blew up from there. So each week that you were watching the UFC, if they had shows in back-to-back weeks, a lot of the times they did, and for a while they only had like one show a month. It was like packed, each card. The thing is, man, you have to recognize that if Conor McGregor goes out there and finishes Max Holloway in a devastating fashion, that sends shockwaves back through the sport. Right? If he goes out there and gets a decision win, that will be a big deal. You know, if he gets a win, period, that'll be a big deal. But to go out there and like knock out Max Holloway, that would be huge within the industry. You know what I'm saying? That would send shockwaves everywhere. You know, internet content would be booming. Paramount content would be booming. Dana White content on his personal channels would be booming. It would all be crazy, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like, you know, the sport has moved past Conor, and so have the fans, right? So I'm watching this version of Conor now. You know, we've seen the wild, you know, we've seen the Conor on the come up. The mad, hungry fighter that just wanted the money, wanted that fame, wanted that stardom, wanted to make his way. In his words, he wanted to take over, right? Then you got that Conor that got that little bit of first taste of success and fame. He defeats Jose Aldo in like 13 seconds. And, you know, defeats Eddie Alvarez in Madison Square Gardens. All of these things. First champ ever. He coined that term. That was a good Conor. Then we saw the Conor that was on the road to the Floyd Mayweather fight. This was by far one of my favorite Conors, because he literally made you believe he was going to go into the ring and eat Floyd Mayweather alive. You didn't really know what you were going to see. Now, if you were a fan of boxing, or you were aware of boxing like myself, you definitely knew Floyd was going to go in there and do work, and you were just waiting to see that. And had I been betting back then, I would have bet a mint on that one fight that Conor was going to get rolled. But nevertheless, man, that build up to that fight, especially when they did that stop in Toronto, Canada. If you don't know, you need to know. You need to YouTube Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. I don't know what you would label it, pre-fight press conference Canada. And just watch this and look at we're talking about just before it was a real word. A popular word. The aura that McGregor is sending over that audience and has them whipped into a frenzy is amazing, right? So then we get the Conor who's, drunk, going into training camp and going into fight week, taking shots of whiskey on the stage. His return to mixed martial arts against Khabib Nurmagomedov. And that wasn't really that good, right? You just could tell by the way Conor was conducting himself. He was overplaying his hand. He was overly acting like he was crazy. He was a madman. He was a savage. And that wasn't his mentality at that time. What was more mad is that he was up there doing shots of his own whiskey like 2 days before the weigh-in to go in there and fight that fight against Khabib Nurmagomedov, right? So it's just one of those things where it just didn't match. And then each Conor we've seen since then, the one that went out there and waxed Cowboy Cerrone, that was a fairly decent version, but I mean he damn near KO'd Cowboy Cerrone with shoulder strikes, just a pow. You're like, what is that? He done Harlem shaked him into submission. You know what I'm saying? Bro, that version of Conor, I guess it was alright. Then you saw, man, the versions that fought Dustin Poirier are just like, what are we doing? A side note, shout out to Dustin Poirier, man. get you some help, get better, man. I'm still rooting for you. You've always been an awesome ambassador of mixed martial arts in the UFC, so hope to see you get well soon. Nevertheless, man, we haven't seen too many good versions of Conor. And our last version of him that we saw in the octagon, he was laying there with a broken leg. You know what I'm saying? Joe Rogan down right beside him trying to interview him on all fours. You know what I mean? Pause. But it's just it's like a weird thing, right? So we haven't really seen that McGregor from the earlier years. And so I'm watching this interview, and for one, it's hard to get excited to see this because Max is coming off of a loss. Although that does make it seem like there's more of a possibility of Conor winning that fight. But it all just came out of nowhere. No beat up, no lead up. I mean, they've been talking about McGregor wanting to make a return for years, and he was supposed to come back and fight like Michael Chandler like 10 times. Poor old Michael Chandler, he's just circling guys in the octagon now, at the White House, just waiting to get knocked out. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like looking, I will say this was a healthier looking Conor McGregor. He did look clean, and I'm not talking about fresh out the shower. We talking about, because the last few years we haven't seen that king of snow. You know what I'm saying? That snowplow driver, Conor McGregor, here recently. But, I'll definitely say he looked clean. He somewhat talked a good game. What I found to be the most interesting in watching this interview with Ariel Helwani on the Ariel Helwani show is him saying he only has 2 fights left on his deal, which we've always speculated that or somewhat known that. And saying that one of those fights is, of course, the one in upcoming July. And the other one is next year in April. And he's saying it's already signed, which doesn't mean anything. Dates always change with all fighters, especially a fighter the caliber of Conor. The way that he played it when being asked, if he was going to re-sign, if he wasn't going to re-sign, and the way that he really did seem to understand his worth in a way in the free market. Like, Ariel's kind of baiting him like he normally does on, going out and testing the free market after he fulfills his last 2 fights with the UFC. And he really seemed like he understood he was definitely going to go out there and get to that bag. But there was also seemed like a part of him that was like, if the UFC will make me the right offer, I'll stick around. Now, let's be honest. Between these two, he's later in life. He's not 40 yet or anything, but he's later in life. Been out of competition for a grip of time. Smart money says, bro, you go ahead and you go to boxing. Smart money says you go to boxing. He was already lightweight training on the side to face Manny Pacquiao a few years ago when he started, when he went into that trilogy with Dustin Poirier. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely in his wheelhouse, and definitely with all the leg damage, including the leg break that he sustained. No doubt boxing would be the play. He'll make the most money, and it'll probably be the easiest on his body, although he might go out there and get waxed. But still, it's going to be interesting to see, man. It's going to be interesting to see how he looks in this return against Max Holloway. I'm not making any predictions now. I will make one as we get closer to the fight. I know what everybody's thinking it's going to be, and that's probably what everybody's is going to be. But nevertheless, it's going to be interesting to see how he looks in this fight, and it's going to be even more interesting to see how Conor plays it and how the UFC plays it going into his final fight. Can they make him an offer big enough, or that's good enough, or has enough options to keep him in the UFC and basically shore him up for the rest of his fighting career? Or will he definitely make that move and go out there and test the free market? Which I just don't think the UFC is not in the business of paying fighters their worth. So I can't see them paying him anywhere, nowhere close to what he could make in boxing. But still, it's going to be very interesting to see, man. You know, he didn't really have a ton of one-liners. He didn't really have a ton of cool things. You can tell he's lightweight, kind of disappointed in the direction the UFC is moving in right now with the fights that they're putting on. He kind of called them cheap. You know, talked about they need to loosen up the purse strings. You know, in other words, pay a little bit of money, get the proper fighters in there, make the proper fights. But we'll see how it all goes, man. You know, we will see how it all goes. I just wanted to drop in, tap into some good with you guys about all of that, man. Very, very interesting things coming up. You know, this weekend, we back again. We got Fiziev in the main event. Rafael Fiziev. Maybe it's Rafael Fiziev stepping in the octagon. So that'd be very interesting to see. We'll be able to check that out. You know, I'll be right back with y'all. We'll take a look at this card, but I think in a way everybody's kind of experiencing White House fatigue, even in the fallout from it. And what's up? Also, we got to make a video and touch on whatever's going on with my guy Alex Pereira. What is going on with Poatan Alex Pereira? We got to drop in and talk a little bit about that. We got to talk about a little bit about Dustin Poirier and a little bit about this weekend's card. So I'll be right back with y'all guys. I really appreciate you all checking this video out. Please like, subscribe, comment. And once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.